Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Oh, thanks, Lisa, for having me. I'm excited to have this one-to-one with you.
Absolutely. This podcast is called Becoming You because we take inspirational people and talk to them about how they became the person that they are now. So, you're a serial entrepreneur and you own multiple businesses. So, tell us a little bit about that. What are the businesses that you own?
Yeah, right now I have three enterprises, I would call them. One of them is a nonprofit, so we don't really call that a business, although we run it as a business.
Right.
But the main businesses I run is one is Harkiss Designs. That's a fair trade company that I started in 2008. Not 2008, but when the idea came to me in 2008, I didn't really start the business until like 2010. So that business, I work with mainly women in East Africa, where they create these amazing pieces and we sell them on an international level, mainly in the US. We do sell handmade products from jewelry to home decor and tabletops. We distribute to about 50 plus stores in the US currently. The other company is a cleaning company, which I never thought I would ever own or run a cleaning company. That just fell on my laps when a friend of mine needed help to develop the company from a one-man company, which was like, for me, it was like something he was doing for fun, I guess, to make a little bit of money. So I came on board and we did business development. I became a full 50-50%, 50-50 partner. And now company has 15 employees. So those are the two companies I currently run in the US.
Great. And the nonprofit is called Lindahan Uganda. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Lindahan Uganda is something that also came out of, I would say, our same thing, came out of the crash of 2008, where I really wanted to do something for my people back home in Uganda. I partnered with these young men in Uganda who were running a small nonprofit helping kids helping kids stay in school or make sure they go to school. I came up here, talked to a few friends of mine, something I really wanted to do. I needed a little bit of support. I started a nonprofit here in the US. We have been running the nonprofit since 2014. We have a lunch program that we initiated in 2016, and we are feeding kids during the school hours to make sure they stay in school and not go hungry during their school time. The nonprofit has continued to strive and survive through the pandemic. Although the schools have been closed for almost 2 years now, we have continued to feed those children and their families while they're home. Because remember, they are the same kids who don't have food. If they can't afford school while they're in school, definitely there's no food at home. So during the pandemic, we made sure that while they're home, they still get fed and have a full stomach.
Amazing. So it's casual. You're just casually running two large businesses and a nonprofit, living in New York, traveling to Uganda monthly every few months. So it's not like you're busy, right?
Actually, I'm very busy. Listen, sometimes I don't even know how I do it. I just find myself doing it, running. Harkiss Designs is my passion. It's my dream, because Harkiss Designs is not just a company. It is a way of life for so many East African artisans, because I work with artisans in Kenya and in Uganda. And imagine having two different countries, although they're both East African countries, they are still two different countries, a little bit of different cultures, but I have to make sure that they all run, hand in hand. As for the cleaning company, oh my God, that one is it's a headache in terms of, because I'm not depending on myself to do the job. I'm depending on other people. And when you really have to be on top of things to make sure that the company runs and survives.
Yeah, I was kidding about you not being that busy. Like, you to me are the definition of a boss with all capital letters, like running all these companies. So I want to hear about the companies, but first, becoming you, tell us a little bit. You were born in Uganda. How did you end up in the US?
Yeah, born and raised in Uganda. Did my part of my education was done in Uganda. Then when time came to go to college, my dad my dad decided that the best place for me to be was the UK, because I had no attachment there in terms of being that I got pregnant at a very young age. I had a son, and my father didn't want that to represent me. He said, "No, you were mother now, but you can still continue to get your education." So my parents took over my son and taking care of him, and they boarded me to the UK for me to continue my education. So from the UK after graduation is when I came to the US to actually visit my brother who was here. I had no intention of staying in the US because I found it a little bit different versus Europe. I was used to the European way of life and living. But when I came here, stayed a little bit with my brother, I realized that he needed me more than I need, he needed me really. So I stayed. And through that, I never looked back. I fell in love with the US, and New York, New Jersey has been my homes for almost 20 years now.
Amazing. So I hear partially there, like, and if this has informed how you lived your life and developed your businesses, it's like the importance of family. Like your dad was very involved and was like, you're still going to succeed. You saw your brother. So do you feel like that's a big part of your life is like, and thinking about your businesses, it's like the importance of family and the opinions of other people in your family?
Yes, for me, family comes first. We grew up in a very large family. My mother, I didn't grow up with my mother. So my father and my grandmother were really the people who raised me. And because of that, I was surrounded by so many different, my cousins, my nephews, and everybody brought their children to the grandmother for holidays. So I grew up in a big family, and my father made sure that we grew up as sisters because we are 13 girls. We all grew up together and loved each other, despite that some of us were from two different mothers. But family really means a lot. And family is not just somebody that you're blood related. Family can even be somebody, a stranger you met, and that person becomes a family and then becomes a community. So I'm really involved in when it comes to family and community. That's my number one priority in everything I do.
That makes sense. And it seems like maybe that informs, like, you're not just running businesses. One is a business, but there's the nonprofit. And then Harkiss is very directly tied to your home, which I would also imagine is represented family, that like your business incorporate Uganda. So can you
Right.
talk a little bit about that? And like, that's a conscious choice that everything you're doing is supporting your country.
Yeah. So, when you look at how I started Harkiss, so when there was a crash in 2008, I decided to take a sabbatical. So I traveled. I went to Asia and, of course, my home Africa. So I was traveling between Africa and Asia just to figure out what is it I want to do for me that would make sense to me. And then just there and then, as I would go, relaxed, I would be going through these markets in Uganda, talking to all these women with their crafts and asking them the pricing. And they would, this one woman told me, oh, she had made this little beautiful handbag and she was selling it to me for $1. So my idea was like, I can really make use of this if you made it this way. And then if you change the style, I can pay you $5 instead of $1. So it comes back to that market was something that it was a market in Uganda, women in the market, raised by my grandmother. It all came together like, okay, this is something I can do not only to create a little bit of a living, but also to empower these women using skills that they already had. So that's how Harkiss was born. And then it also encompasses of being raised by, like I said, raised by my grandmother, being tight with my grandmother, seeing what she did, and then having these conversations with these women in the market. It all came together.
Amazing. And so if we think about all the things that you are doing as the boss that you are managing Harkiss, there's the relationships with the artist, and then there's shipping from from whichever country or from Uganda or East Africa to the US, and then managing all the relationships here, which is mostly some to consumer, but wholesale accounts with stores.
Right.
Right. So you are clearly busy.
Yeah. And, although I have a team in Kenya, I have a team that coordinates all the artisans. Uganda, I have a team. That's where I have our biggest warehouses in Uganda. Sometimes we bring the things from Kenya into Uganda to have one huge shipment. Sometimes we ship separately. Despite having a team and people managing, I deal with all the artisans directly. I pay artisans directly to avoid any middleman. I have to have a conversation with the artisans every chance I get. When one of our clients here has an issue with a product, or it didn't come out right, or the colors were off, right away I'm in touch with the artisan via WhatsApp to have that conversation. So I'm very tied and working in the business with Harkiss Designs. I don't see myself never working in the business, because it's like I said, it's my passion, and it's a direct relationship between me and where I grew up.
Yeah, I think that one thing that's important in your business and why it calls on you to be involved is you're not an American woman or a Western woman who's like, oh, we're going to create this import business. We're going to help people, which gets a little problematic. But like, you are really straddling your two cultures and managing those relationships, which I think just is very important.
Yeah, it is. And for me, I see people getting on a plane to go, oh, I'm going to Africa. And then there are people who can't afford to go to Africa. So how do you bring the beauty, the African beauty, to them? Harkiss does that. So that's why it's very passionate for me to keep doing what I'm doing with Harkiss Designs, because not only am I creating jobs and helping these families put food on their family tables, but I'm also bringing the beauty and the culture to your door here in the US if you can't get on a plane to go to Africa. And it's what I pride myself in, that, like, oh my God, somebody knows about something called a banana fiber, Ugandan matoke, because they bought an item from me that is made from that, and they got this little card that explained what it is. So it's bridging the two gaps together, bringing them together, like, bringing East Africa with the United States under one roof through just this exporting of products.
It's amazing. And tell me a little bit about working with the artists. What are some of the big challenges there? I mean, obviously it's amazing. You're helping them, you're empowering them, but are there any challenges there, and how do you deal with them being the boss that you are?
Yeah, there's so many challenges. So the challenges never stop, but we always have to figure out a way to solve them, because one thing I pride myself with is I'm a problem solver. It's very hard to hear me. If I hear somebody complain about the same thing 3 times, I'm like, okay, what have you done about it? Like, can you stop complaining? Find a solution. So that's what I do. The challenges we face is because, as you know, Africa has some power goes off all the time. There might be weather now. If you look at what's going on in the world, it can sometimes rain for 3 months in a row nonstop. That means the materials will not be available because they have to use dry materials. That causes a delay in the supply chain. And that is something we deal with all the time. One of the things I really appreciate our clients is that they are learning to appreciate, but that is through the education we have done to educate them of what, I know you ordered these many products for your shop, but unfortunately, due to the rains, we are not able to get them in a timely manner. So those are one of the delays in the supply chain, is one of the major problems because of weather, transportation, political issues. Now we have the pandemic. Once the country shuts down, the artisan is not able to go from their home to the workshop to make a living. It's impossible. So the challenges are there, but we've survived. We are still surviving, and every day we get a new solution to make sure that we do not, we do not repeat the same, we don't repeat having the same complaint all the time.
Right. I love that because you're solution oriented. It's a positive mindset. And I think that goes to like how we think and how we choose to see ourselves really affects how successful we are. So
Right.
between Harkiss and then, on the side, you're the CEO of this large industrial cleaning company. Tell me about some of what are Harriet's tricks to success in leading this company in international. I would imagine with the cleaning company, there's some of like still, it's the man's world, with doing the contracts. So what are some of your ways to manage that and show up and succeed?
Yeah, the cleaning business is a tough business to run because the main issue with the cleaning business is it's like a revolving door when it comes to the employees. They, for some reason, they never stay. It's like they're in 1 month and 3 months and they're gone. But I had to figure it out. 2018 was tough for me because that was the first year I started, became part of the cleaning company. And I just couldn't understand it. I was like, okay, why did they come to work here for 2 months and left? Why did we train them? Then I figured out how to keep them. And I figured that out now. It's by making sure you are involved directly with them, working with them side to side in terms of giving them that comfort that, okay, this is something, I'm not just sitting there to push you out there. I'm part of this. I'm training you to be better. We pay very well. I think in all cleaning companies in New York, we pay our guys very, very well. So that also helps to keep them. But also, again, having that conversation with them regularly and making them understand that, hey, if you really want to stay, this is a place for you to stay where, you can grow here, you can make enough money. Being just because you're cleaning doesn't mean you're not going to be able to feed your family. So those are a few things that I've done in terms of making sure that we keep going and keeping the employees. For the first time in 2020, I've had 2 ladies I've kept for 3 years now, and I'm like, even through the pandemic, they stayed because we kept paying them through the pandemic. Of course, we got a little bit of help from federal, but we had some clients who also stayed with us to make sure that we kept our payroll going and that making sure it wasn't money coming to me personally. Actually, I didn't pay myself all throughout the pandemic, but my employees were getting paid.
I love that. There's a couple of things you said. One is you've said this more than once. You have a solutions mindset. I feel like I see people all the time be like, well, something broke. Where what I'm hearing you say is when you see something broke, you think, well, what are all the ways I could fix it?
Right.
And I really love this. You kept people on the payroll. You pay people a good and fair wage. You communicate with them. And that makes me think about how I define success. And for me as a business owner, I don't just think how much money are we making, but how many people am I paying with this money? To me, it's other people. So how do you define success for you?
Well, it depends on success depends on whom you're talking to.
Yes.
Some people see success as having money. For me, money is a gateway to help others get better, and it's my number one goal. Every time, Lisa, every time I get $5,000 saved, I'm thinking that half of that is going to go to somebody. It's going to make someone else's life better somewhere. Trust me. That's how I define my success, is in making sure that other people around me are well taken care of, and they're also doing well for themselves. I love to share. So that's part of what I do, is sharing. In other words, money doesn't make me. Rather, I make the money to make other people's lives better, and I share it.
That's so beautiful. I love it. So speaking of money, What are some of the mindset, thoughts, actions with money that have helped you? I mean, you've said one, you think about how you can share it, but like working in companies, like you have to sort of embrace these are large sums of money. Like, what are some of your key money mindset thoughts or tricks?
I'm still figuring that out. I think.
Mhm.
I believe that when a company, when you make a little bit of, when you get a little bit of money in the company, is making sure you put money back into that company. Like for us in the cleaning business, we every time we get a nice contract, we make sure we buy a new machine to make sure that if we get another contract again, we are going to be able, instead of using 2 people, we're going to be able to use 4 people and cut that work in half. So that's when it comes to money through companies, that's what I do, is putting it back. With Harkiss Designs, we put money into our artisans. Right now, we are talking about 2022. We hear that wood might become in about 10 years, there won't be any cutting of trees, whether they are, so what are we doing about that? How are we keeping our artisans? How are we going to keep our artisans in business, in production? So we are working on building a workshop where they can, workshop and a warehouse where they can now start working back to back and be able to store those pieces. And that way they can keep selling throughout the next 5 years. So again, it's money, business and money is putting it back in to keep producing.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that you have to reinvest to grow.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, and you have to get comfortable. Like, personally, I would imagine however much these machines cost are a lot of money. And you have to realize it's not your money, it's the company's money. So, like, you have to learn how to start hearing about dealing with being the boss about large sums of money.
Right. And, one is for me, I learned that I have to say, although if you look at fresher cleaning, yes, it's really, I'm now like 65% owner, I'm the biggest, I'm the largest partner, but I pay myself a salary and the other money has to go into the company. It doesn't, the money, well, yes, I could decide to say, okay, let me pay myself $50,000 today. No, it doesn't work that way. It is money belonging to the company, and everything we do, we have to streamline it where the company and the personals are separate, and making sure we, pay yourself a salary and make sure the other money goes back into the company. And yeah.
Absolutely. So, one of the things you talked about with the artisans that you work with is empowering women.
Right.
One of the, aims of this podcast, my messaging, is to empower women to be business owners. If people are listening to this and they're like, I want to be like Harriet, like, this is amazing. What if a woman comes to you and she's like, I want to start a business? What's some of the advice you would give her?
Yeah, I've done this 100 times. They come to me, and then next week they come to you with the same thing, then the other week. And so I say, hey, look, if you have an itch to start a business, the hardest thing to do is to get started. So my suggestion to you right now, jump up, get up, and start. And of course, when you start, it's hard. Starting is hard. But when you start, trust me, you're going to realize, you're going to see things. And it's also going to be hard when you start. Don't give up. Keep that straight line. Advice I give, especially if you're new, network with the same and right-minded people. Avoid the negative noises.
Mm-hmm.
Filter those noises, because if you go to someone and say, oh, I would like to start this kind of business, and they're saying, you can't do it because it's hard, that's a negative noise. That is somebody you don't want to talk to for the next 3 months until you've put your foot in the door, you've started your business. So filter the negative noises. Seek for advice only from the people who will look out for you. If somebody is not going to look out for you or give you anything positive, that is not someone you want to have a conversation with regarding what you're trying to do in the business world, because then you will never get anything done.
Right. Yeah. I always think about, I tell people, like, get mentors who've don't take advice from people who haven't done what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if not, I mean, like, like my Aunt Jane can have an opinion, but she doesn't really know anything about running a business. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about what are some of your big goals? What do you want to do next?
Well, I think right now actually I'm in a process of planning our retirement. So I'm now, my planning has shifted, as much as I'm still in the US. My planning is shifting to Africa right now because that's where we want to retire. And but at the same time, retiring doesn't mean I'm not going to keep doing what I love doing. I love to work. I love to have projects all the time. We are now setting up something new in Uganda, and we'll see how that goes.
Ooh, another business.
Yes.
That's very exciting. So, you're gonna retire back to Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you're excited to do there? What do you miss about being there?
Oh my God, the food, good food. The food, where we are is hilly, so the walking every day would be great. Stress-free, less stress, I'll tell you that. As much as we love America, it's a very stressful country. There's a very so yeah, I'm looking forward to the food, stress-free living. I know the political arena can be terrible, but we are able to separate ourselves from that if we
I
can, which we
mean,
do.
you can say that about here too.
Right. Yeah. I'm looking forward to having my family around. I have family here, but because, like I say, it's stressful. Sometimes I have family here, and sometimes I don't see my brother for 3 months, and he's right here in Connecticut. The only time you see him, of course, we talk almost every other day, but the only time you see him and my nieces and nephews is when it's a holiday. So I want to be close to family back in Uganda. The other thing I really, really look forward to in Uganda is having people do things for me. I can afford that in Uganda. I can't afford that here. So
New York is a tough place to do that.
yeah, so that's waking up and a chef, you have a chef in the corner there bringing you breakfast. I'm like, that's the way to live.
Yeah, that is the way to live. That's amazing. I'm excited about that for you. So, if we want to buy some, can you tell us just a little bit? Harkiss Designs, tell me it's housewares and jewelry.
Yeah, it's fashion and home accessories. So fashion, we mostly do jewelry, which are unique pieces, one of a kind. We expertise ourselves in using horn, brass, leather, and wood. Everything is natural materials. And then for the home, we do tabletops, we do kitchenware, and everything is handmade. That is also horn and wood, and brass, of course. So for more on that, you can go to our website. Just Google Harkiss Designs, which is.
I'll put it in the notes for the show.
So that's holidays are already here. I know some people are doing last minute shopping, so why not go in and see if you can get something shipped to you right away.
Yeah, and we'll put a link to it, but I just want to say this jewelry is epic. Like it's big and bold, and it's so beautiful. So I'm excited for everybody to see it. Harriet, if you had a message to all women as they, strive to not just create businesses, but like create lives on their terms, what would you want to tell them?
Make your own money. Don't depend on anyone. I know we have loving husbands out there. I know, I can testify to that. They're loving, they're caring, they're giving. But you are a woman today, make your own money.
I love that. It keeps you safe.
Yeah, safe, and it gives you that independence. And and women, I think I know we have the voice, but we need to be louder. And when you make your little bit of your own money, that voice becomes louder, then people will listen to you.
Yes. I always say like fortunately or unfortunately, money can give you power. So don't we think we're talking about politics in a lot of countries, including the US. I want to hear what more women have to say.
Yeah, we do. It's we are still we are so powerful, but not yet there. We still need to make a little bit of more noise. And maybe when we're out there being CEOs, being the bosses we are, not only in the homes or in the kitchens, let's take it to the streets and become bosses everywhere.
Let's do it. I love it. Harriet, you are such an inspiration. Boss with a capital B. I'm excited for everybody to learn more about you, and thank you for all the inspiration today.
Thanks, Lisa, for having me. I enjoyed it, and hope let's see what the listeners say, and I'm here. Thank you.